Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
The skirmish at Island Mound, which was a skirmish October 29th in Bates County, Missouri. Notable because this is the first known event in which African-American regiment engaged in combat against Confederate forces during the war.
nice.
Captain, soon-to-be Colonel James M. Williams, had been forming an African-American regiment in Kansas, made up largely of escaped slaves from Missouri, Arkansas, and Indian Territory, and some free blacks as well.
All right.
August 1862, these men were mustered into Kansas militia service as the first Kansas Colored Volunteers.
Damn
The
fantastic.
United States was not ready to accept black troops, though, because it's still 1862.
Right.
And they weren't mustered into United States service until, obviously, after the Emancipation Proclamation.
I'd be like, hey man, we
But-
said you can't you don't have to be slaves, but you still aren't humans.
Right. Yeah, they weren't officially allowed to serve until January 13th of 1863. Though.
Right.
So,
Despite the uncertainty of the regiment's future as a federal military force, Kansas ensured the men were armed with a mix of good Austrian and Prussian muskets with bayonets as well. Major General B.S. Henning, that's B.S., he's Henning up.
they made it up.
B.S. Henning ordered Captain Richard G. Ward's 170-man battalion, Captain Henry C. Seaman's 70-man battalion to proceed across the Missouri River, that is, proceed to Bates County, Missouri. They were accompanied by members of the 5th Kansas Cavalry serving as scouts, among them some Cherokee and blacks.
Hey.
The objective was to break up a guerrilla army based on Hog Island in the Osage River, near the Tooth Man homestead, about 9 miles on the other side of the Kansas-Mizzou border.
All right. The area away from the river was largely open, tall grass, prairie, and farms without many trees. That's not good. John Toothman had been identified as a guerrilla and imprisoned at Fort Lincoln, which was a Civil War prison camp near Fulton, Kansas. As the Kansans approached on Monday, October 27th, the scouts identified a large party ahead as local Confederate guerrillas under Bill Truman and Dick Hancock. Dick Hancock, okay. As well as Missouri State Guard recruits under Colonel Jeremiah Vard Cockrell, when they were all mounted.
Finding the enemy is greater force than anticipated, the Kansans fortified the Toothman homestead and used fence rails to create breastworks. Soldiers dubbed the works Fort Africa.
All right.
Tuesday passed with occasional skirmishing. The superior range of the Austrian muskets kept the guerrilla cavalry with lesser arms at bay. By Wednesday, 29th of October, 1862, the Kansans' rations were running low. Runners had been sent back to Kansas requesting assistance. A foraging party was dispatched while skirmishers pushed forward to create a diversion. When the foragers returned, the men ate.
And we shall eat. Well, the Kansans ate. The guerrillas set a prairie fire south of the camp, driving in the skirmishers. Seaman responded by backburning to prevent the fire from reaching the camp.
Right.
So he's burning out towards the fire that's coming in towards him. So it's right. Good. It's good stuff. He sent out a scouting party consisting of Cherokee John Sixkiller and his slaves.
Oh, nice.
Is it John Sixkiller slaves or is it Seaman slaves?
Sixkiller.
Oh, yeah, six, because his slaves who had enlisted with him.
Right.
So this guy's an Indian with slaves. All right.
Fantastic.
The party was to move beyond the edge of the fire, but remain in sight of the camp. Instead, they were drawn into skirmishing and advanced out of sight.
Oh, shit.
A party under Lieutenant Joseph Gardner, soon accompanied by several other officers, was dispatched to their aid and to recall them. This group also soon became engaged out of sight.
All right.
Captain Ward was dispatched to their aid and could soon see the others engaged far from the camp in the river bottoms. He called for the rest of the command to be brought up. In response, Seaman sent his force forward on the flanks in support.
All right. The mounted guerrillas appeared in force, moving to a point between Gardner and Ward. Gardner's men attempted to make it back to camp. When they could not, they formed a line and fired a volley into the charging cavalry. Kansas men were badly outnumbered. A general melee ensued, in which most of the Kansans' loss occurred.
I'm sure.
Southern cavalry who swept past Gardner found themselves hemmed in by volleys from the rest of the approaching Kansans. Gardner's detachment moved toward the advancing line, and the guerrillas were finally forced to withdraw. They did some damage, though.
Yeah. Well, Union casualties, 8 killed, which included 1 white officer, 6 blacks, and 1 Cherokee.
Oh, shit.
And 11 men wounded. Among the dead were Captain A.G. Crew of Company A,
Poor guy.
Corporal Joseph Talbot, Private Samuel Davis, Thomas Lane, Marlon Barber, Alan Rhodes, Henry Gash, all of Company F, and John Sixkiller of Seaman's Battalion.
Oh, no.
Guerrilla losses are unknown, although some Kansas at the time claimed up to 40 killed. The action was reported in the New York Times by a correspondent who had accompanied the Kansas unit. Is that like the first wartime reporting, like on the field? The heroic action of the African Americans was headlined as desperate bravery, and Bill Truman himself told supporters in Butler that the blacks had fought like tigers. The African Americans were fighting for their freedom to ensure they never went back to slavery, and they knew the guerrillas would give them no quarter, having promised to kill blacks rather than take them prisoner.
Yeah, dude. You're black. You're
fighting against them. You know damn well they're killing you.
Well, the unit's bravery attracted national attention, as some observers had doubted whether former slaves would make good soldiers. They're like, see, they can do it. I'm like, well, I haven't seen enough yet.
Why would anybody think that? Well, they're not going to make good soldiers, you know. They've only been breaking their backs on farms and shit 24 hours a day.
They weren't even considered humans for forever.
Well, obviously, but I'm saying, if anybody that would be able to put up with the training and shit, I think it would be the slaves.
Right. 1863, the United States colored troops were established. December 13th, 1864, the 1st Kansas Colored Volunteers were redesignated as the 79th United States Colored Troops. Still
got that colored in there.
Right?
The Battle of Island Mound State Historic Site was established in 2012 with Bates County to preserve this area. It memorializes the actions of all the soldiers, including the 8 Kansas soldiers who died in action and were buried near the Toothman Farm. The Battle of Island Mound in 2014 is a 30-minute documentary and was commissioned by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources and produced by Brant Hadfield, a filmmaker based in St. Louis. Okay. He wrote, directed, and shot and edited the film. Good for him. And won 2 Emmy Awards in 2015 for Best Historical Documentary and Cinematography.
No shit.
It has won other awards, but I don't know what they are.
Right. And others.
Okay.
Look at that shit.
Look at that.